This piece of production does not promote consumption of alcohol.
Living room of the Tyrone's summer home, 8:30 a.m. on a day in August 1912. James Tyrone is a 65-year-old actor who had long ago bought a vehicle, play for himself, and had established his reputation based on this one role, which he had toured for years. His wife Mary has recently returned from treatment for morphine addiction and has put on some much needed weight as a result. She is looking much healthier than the family has been accustomed to, and they remark frequently on her improved appearance. However, she still retains the haggard facial features of a long-time addict. As a recovering addict, she is restless and anxious. She also suffers from insomnia, which is not made any easier by her husband and children's loud snoring. When Edmund, her younger son, hears her moving around at night and entering the spare bedroom, he becomes alarmed because this is the room where in the past she would satisfy her addiction. He questions her about it indirectly. She reassures him that she just went there to get away from her husband's snoring. In addition to Mary's problem, the family is worried about Edmund's coughing. The fear that he might have tuberculosis, and are anxiously waiting for a doctor's diagnosis. Edmund is more concerned about the effect of a positive diagnosis might have on his mother than on himself. The constant possibility that she might relapse worries him still further. Once again, he indirectly speaks to his mother about her addiction. He asks her, "Promise not to worry yourself sick and take care of yourself." "Of course, I promise you," she protests, but then adds with a bitterness, "But I suppose you are remembering I have promised before on my word of honor." The same around 12:45 p.m. and about a half hour later, Jamie and Edmund taunt each other about stealing their father's alcohol and watering it down so he won't notice. They speak about Mary's conduct. Jamie berates Edmund for leaving their mother unsupervised. Edmund berates Jamie for being suspicious. Both, however, are deeply worried that their mother's addiction may have been resurfaced. Jamie points out to Edmund that they had concealed their mother's addiction from him for 10 years, explaining that maybe about the nature of the disease was understandable but deluded. They discuss the upcoming results of Edmund's test for tuberculosis, and Jamie tells him to prepare for the worst. Mary appears. She is distraught about Edmund's coughing, which he tries to suppress so as not to alarm her, fearing anything that might trigger her addiction again. When Edmund accepts his mother's excuse that she had been upstairs so long because she had been lying down, Jamie looks at them both contemptuously. Tyrone notices and starts becoming defensive and belligerent, berating Jimmy for his cynicism and disrespect for his parents. Jamie is quick to point out that the only reason he has survived as an actor is through his father's influence in the business. Mary speaks of her frustration with their summer home, its impermanence and shabbiness, and her husband's indifference to his surroundings. With irony, she alludes to her belief that this air of detachment might be the very reason he has tolerated her addiction for so long. James gives money to Edmund to buy some medicine for Mary. Mary confronts Edmund about her sadness and how bad she feels when she does not take her medicine. The same around 6:30 that evening, Mary and Kathleen returned home for their drive to the drugstore where Mary has sent Kathleen in to purchase her morphine prescription. Not wanting to be alone, Mary does not allow Kathleen to go to the kitchen to finish dinner and to offers her a drink instead. Mary does most of the talking and discusses her love for the fog, but the hatred of the foghorn and her husband's obvious obsession with money. Mary has already taken some of her prescription. She did talk about her past in Catholic convent and the promise she once had as a pianist, and the fact that it once thought that she might become a nun. When Edmund reveals that he has consumption, Mary refuses to believe it and attempts to discredit Dr. Hardy. Due to her inability to face the reality and severity of the situation, she accuses Edmund of attempting to get more attention by blowing everything out of proportion. In retaliation, Edmund reminds her mother that her own father died of consumption, and then, before exit, he adds how difficult it is to have a dog fiend for a mother. They hear Jimmy coming home drunk, and James leaves to avoid fighting. Jamie and Edmund converse, and Jamie confesses that although he loves Edmund more than anyone else, he wants him to fail. Jamie passes out. When James returns, Jamie wakes up, and they quarrel anew. Mary, lost in her drug-laden dreams of the past, comes downstairs, holding her wedding gown. She talks about her convent days and how she lost her vocation by falling in love with James, while her husband and sons silently watch her. Mary comes down with the wedding dress, sits in front of the piano. After playing for some time, she starts talking. Then all of them sits around in a table. Mary keeps talking. Jamie arrives home. He briefly reconnects his night events before confessing to Edmund that a bitter sense of resentment has made him attempt to drag him down to his level. Jimmy, Edmund, and Tyrone all begin to argue with one another, and they eventually doze off. Quickly, they wake up to the sound of the piano, and Mary wanders downstairs with her wedding dress in hand. She is hallucinating about her days in the convent and all that could have been. The men watching her feebly reciting verses and quietly take a seat in their chairs.